Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello and welcome back to the channel where you join me on a pretty wet day here in New York City, but it's the first driving leg of the tour in the United States with my AMG GT Black Series, heading to a new location. But while we're on the road, I want to discuss something that I've seen quite a few of you asking me about. What does it actually cost to do a tour like this with a car like this? We're talking things like the car shipping, of course it's come from another continent, the insurance while it's here, the servicing and maintenance that it will need, the new tyres, all of the fuel for quite a few thousand miles. We've also got the logistics involved, like booking the hotels and the flights and everything else for what's going to be the most epic of adventures. Now today we're going to be setting off from this normally wonderful location with that backdrop of the New York City skyline, but it's actually getting pretty miserable very quickly with the rain falling. We're going to be heading north up the Hudson to take the George Washington Bridge across around Manhattan to go to Long Island and all the way to the end to the Hamptons, where I've never previously been, then to catch a ferry up north across towards our destination of Newport in Rhode Island for some pretty exciting things to come. Now there are going to be lots and lots of miles on this adventure, loads of stops along the way, and of course that all needs booking, which is where the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark, steps in to use their VPN to find the best prices, but more on that a little bit later on. Anyway, the car's loaded, the weather's getting pretty nasty, so let's get on the road and get this first leg underway. Before we go, a lot of people also asked, why bring the AMG GT Black Series? We're going to talk more about that as well, but one of the biggest reasons for this is because it's a car you can actually stick some luggage in, some suitcases, some soft bags, plenty of things, because we're here for quite a while. We've got quite a bit of stuff. That means you can't bring the Senna, the Ford GT, the SF90, the STO, for example. Those are cars which you can't do that with. Anyway, as I said, it's raining, it's getting nasty fast. As lovely as this view is, especially with all of the modern skyscrapers down over that away, it's not worth hanging around for right now. So let's hop in and let's get on the move. Now, over the last few days, having been based here around New York City, that's meant not driving loads of miles. We're at 5,706. Oh, yep, that traffic sign message. We started at 5,577. So about 130 miles of driving so far, but it's going to be about 5,000 miles over the next month, heading just towards the west with the zigzags up and down the country. And then the second part of the trip, which I'll include in the cost, will be coming back the other way. It might actually do 10,000 miles during this journey. Anyway, Cup 2Rs in the rain now, which is not what you want at all. So we're probably going to be swapping those at some point soon. For the moment though, it's about 2.5 hours on the nav towards the ferry crossing from the end of Long Island up. So I could have driven the easy way and gone up through Connecticut, for example. It would have saved a little bit of time, but wouldn't have been quite as fun as doing something new, going out to Long Island. So we're going to go with this for today. We're going to get this on the move, 113 miles, with a lunch stop at some point quite shortly as well. But yeah, I certainly would have liked some sunshine as we've had the last few days, but hey, if it was going to be raining, at least today is probably the least important of the days for that to be the case. This is where we're going to be crossing the George Washington Bridge. It would be wrong not to drive over at least once while we're doing this. We've been through the Lincoln Tunnel a few times, but this is, yeah, quite the traffic overload. Gosh, it's absolute chaos around here. Working out how to get across. Let me try and move over that way. Oh my gosh, New York potholes, which resulted in destroying my GT500 wheels. I'm hoping are not going to destroy this car's wheels as well. We have kind of lost Manhattan in the cloud now. The ride quality of this car is not bad, but these roads are just atrocious. The dips, the ruts, the rivets, the way it drags you everywhere. This needs to be fixed. I mean, look at how many times it's been cut up here. It's madness. I mean, some of the roads in the city have been done and looking better, but this is awful. We've driven through the Bronx and Queens. We're now on Long Island, but it's that kind of traffic which gets really intense, constant stop-starts. But we're following something quite interesting. In front, that BMW M5 competition, which is the F90, with a very suitable plate, F90C, and also in a BMW individual paint colour, that really deep purple, which I bet looks amazing in the sunshine, and reminds me of the M5 that I used to have as the German Schmiemobil in Donington Grey, the non-competition before that came out. Anyway, A few more hours of this to go. We've pulled over to take some photos as we get towards the end of Long Island, and although it's fairly overcast here, it's still kind of cool to be where we are right now, but along the way, small little plan change, and this is where we can segue into the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark. So I've just been told about a plan that we have ahead on our tour that needs me to make a new booking, and when I say a new booking, update a hotel, this is where I need to pull out my laptop. And the other thing that we've prepared brilliantly with the AMG GT Black Series is that on the back of the car we happen to have a perfect desk or picnic table or whatever you need it to be. Firstly, what is Surfshark? Surfshark is a VPN, a virtual private network which encrypts your data, allowing you to keep everything secured and effectively blurred out from anybody who might be trying to snoop on you. In typical fashion, it has just started raining, so I have moved inside the car, which brings me on to one of the key advantages of using Surfshark, which is that instead of being confined to your geographical position, you can change your virtual location, which means you can find the best pricing. This is particularly prevalent in the world of booking flights and hotels and makes a big difference, which is why I always use it. Another of the many benefits of using Surfshark is that your data is encrypted and secured. If you're connected to a public Wi-Fi hotspot, for example, and you need to log into your online banking or send and receive some important documents, you want to know that that's safe, as I've experienced when I've been buying and selling cars while I've been on the road, for example, and needing to sign the contracts. You can also use unlimited devices and all sorts of different devices, from computers to mobile devices to even games consoles with your connection. Right, hotel booked, money saved, and you can save money with Surfshark right now as well. In fact, if you take out a 24-month VPN plan using my QR code or promo code, you can save 83% plus get 3 months for free as well. There's also a 30-day money-back guarantee and 24/7 support. So what are you waiting for? Check out Surfshark now. For us, it's time to get back on the road. I'm hoping that we'll get to a ferry shortly, and that will give me enough time to sit down and talk about the actual costs, which of course I want to run through. But at the moment, I don't entirely know how this is going to work, and obviously the weather is pretty atrocious. There's a ferry that should be about 17 minutes after we arrive in 12 minutes time. And if that's all we need to run in or maybe drive up to a toll booth to buy a ticket, then wonderful. Otherwise, we'll probably have to wait for the one that's like an hour later. I don't know how this is going to go. I've never been here. I'd have loved to go a little bit more that way over to the Hamptons, but to be honest, with this weather, it would be pointless. It would be absolutely pointless. We were kind of fingers and toes crossed that it would stay nice. Alas, it hasn't been, but there will be many places along the way on this tour that will be exceptionally nice. And of course, that's what it's about, the whole thing. The whole thing overall, you know, having this in Times Square was mega, having been in New York. Maybe we'll come back to New York later in the whole thing, that remains to be seen. But for the moment, this car today will be taking us to 4 states. Having started in New Jersey, gone through New York, the crossing actually goes to Connecticut, and then into Rhode Island just for the last little stretch. This is where we need to work out how this works. This is Orient Point. Obviously, it's quickly getting towards the end of the day. There's a ferry over there somewhere, I think. Yeah, there's the ferry, so that's what we're going for. Roadway ends in 800 feet, literally the end of the public highway. And am I gonna have to run out and go to a booth? Clearly we go in here. Yeah, this feels right. Cross Sound Ferry. Oh, we literally pull up here. That makes it easy. Cool. Please have your e-ticket confirmation. Well, I've not booked it in advance, so I'm hoping we can work it out here. Fingers crossed. The good news is just in time, I bought a ticket, we're now boarding, and I think this ferry will sail before the sun completely disappears, which is a little bit more pleasant than it would have been if we were going completely in the dark, considering the weather out there. So hopefully we'll be able to drive on and it's not going to be too low or something like that. Right, handed over my tickets, which means we can take a little wiggle to get on here. Got to worry about the underfloor aero when you go over the top here. Oh, and the same down the other side. Let me just try and get a look at what this is like. Let's take it off to the side here. Wiggle. Okay, we're good. No scraping, only tyres. Oh, this is always maximizing the anxiety as you drive through here. But we're good. We have made it through. So I guess we'll get parked up here and then get cracking on with explaining the various costs and things involved in this tour. Before we go upstairs, there's a lounge upstairs for the crossing, and while they're still boarding other cars, Let's talk about this. And obviously the most expensive thing by a very long way with this is shipping the car. Now you might be asking, why not just rent a car? And we'll talk about that in a moment, but there's something extra special about driving your own car on another continent. Now, shipping depends on many different factors. This car came over in a 1-car container. You could put 2 or even 4 cars in a much bigger container, a 40-foot. This went in a 20-foot, as we showed when we loaded it up. You have different shipping schedules, different locations and destinations, different kind of demands on routes. You also have different weights and different other things as well. The cost to ship this car to the US is way higher than shipping it home, but to bring it one way, because you can't book it too far in advance, was 12,000 US dollars, just over 10,000 pounds. Currency changes all the time, so we'll try and stick to US dollars. To send it home will be about 6,000 US dollars. So we're talking 18,000 US dollars in the car shipping. And I'll compare that to renting a car in a second. That is a very, very, very big outlay. But if you think about it, that's regardless of whether it's here for a week or if it's here for up to 12 months, as you're allowed to in the USA, and depending how much you're going to use it in the meantime. So you can kind of stagger and spread it out a little bit, certainly in your mind. And I've got at least 2 parts of this tour planned. The first is this one from New York across to California over a month or so. The second will be California back to the south of Florida, back to Miami, probably somewhere in the new year, another maybe month or so. So we'll work on that for the moment, about 60 days, 2 months or so on the road. Now, insurance. Of course, while the car is here, my home insurance policy is not exactly valid. So it's insured here instead. While it's slightly more expensive, we're talking about 20% more expensive. It's something like $1,000 a month. It's not a huge outlay in comparison to what the car would cost me back at home anyway. So if it's here for 4 months, it's about $4,000 in total. Fuel. Now, fuel is way cheaper, or gas maybe I should say, out here than at home. Even though the prices are massively higher here than they were, it's still a lot cheaper. And should I drive it 7,000, 8,000 miles in total, something like that, I suspect it will be more. That's going to come to about $2,000 in total, to maybe $3,000, depending exactly how many miles I do. An important thing, tyres. These tyres don't last that long. These Cup 2R tyres are going to need changing, probably twice. I need 1 set now all around because they're really quite low, and I'm going to need another set a little bit later on. And those are about $3,000 a set, so about $6,000 just in tyres. I had it serviced right before it departed from home, so I don't think it will need a service, depending how many miles I do. It won't get to the 12-month service, but if I've driven it hard for 7,000 or 8,000 miles, it's probably worth getting one done. And it's really cool from the service book point of view to have a service stamp in the USA. So that might be something to get done along the way, maybe another $1,000 later on. The big thing though, or the biggest things, are hotels and flights. Now, hotels with the demand here in the US right now are so expensive. 60 nights at Hilton/Marriott level hotels really add up. I'm being quite conservative with hotels because hotels I stayed at 2 years ago are now double or even triple what they cost back then. So if I budget, and remember we're staying in New York City, we're staying in Toronto, we're staying in big expensive cities, about $300 a night on average US, some are a lot more than that. For 60 nights, you're still at about $18,000. It's big money. Then of course, our return flights intercontinentally for 2 people on 2 occasions. So you've got 8 intercontinental flights. We've been trying to balance premium economy, that kind of level, rather than splashing on it right now because it's so expensive. And still that comes to $8,000 for 2 sets of 2 returns. And that's before food and drink and everything to do with tourism and all of that stuff. We're in shipping at 18, insurance for 4, 22, fuel 24, tyres 30, service 31, hotels 49, $57,000 for this trip. About £50,000 at the moment for 2 months on the road. Now, of course, I'm very lucky that this is what I do, both from an enjoyment and personal point of view, but also to create the content. But it's a very big outlay. It's a very big outlay, and I thought you'd be interested to know a little bit more about it. I suspect we need to get to the lounge level though. So let's hop out. We'll talk a little bit more about why not renting a car and a few other things a little bit later on. So my car is somewhere down that away, and we are actually already moving. It's looking pretty choppy out there. I'm not gonna lie, really choppy. As we sail away from Long Island, is this gonna be a major case of being seasick? and probably a car that needs a rinse down afterwards from the salt water. Regardless, it's kind of fun to be here. Anyway, let me go up. That was a very quick crossing. I need to get this started because it is time for us to head out straight away. About an hour and 20 in total. Easy does it. Just watch the front splitter. There we go. Watch the bit between the axles. To be honest, that has been very, very smooth sailing. Noise of that. Now, where do we actually go? We've got about an hour from here to Newport, Rhode Island, but we're now in Connecticut. That's quite exciting. That's the lineup of cars ready for the next return. Amazing they go so late into the evening. So yeah, onwards from here. Well, this is quite fun. Discover beautiful Rhode Island. Unfortunately, at the moment, we can't see much. The weather is horrible, and this is exactly what you don't want when you have Cup 2R tyres on your car. Oh, slow and steady. We've made it to somewhere in Newport. I say somewhere, we've beelined to a Subway because it's quite late in the evening. And it's that thing that happens when you're in the United States. You just end up talking to everyone, super friendly, massive thanks to the team here. The problem is this weather. This weather is really not very friendly, hence why we park literally at the front door here. And I don't quite know how we're going to work our hotel when we get there. But I'm just going to chill here for a moment and answer the question I promised I would answer. Why not a rental car and save $20-something thousand? The truth is, if you wanted to drive, wow, that's no fun. If you wanted to drive 5,000 to 10,000 miles in a $500,000 rental car, or maybe even more than that, I don't know, it would cost a lot more than that. It would cost a lot more, and it wouldn't be the same as doing it in your car from home. How special is it that this is my car? You know, this is the car that in 5, 10, 20 years time, I'll still own, and I drove it to Times Square, and I will have driven it to so many other places in the United States, as well, of course, of taking it to the Middle East and even further afield. So for me, the firstly, value proposition, if you're going to make the most of it. If you're coming for a week or two, it would never make sense. But the value proposition, plus the memories and connection with the car, and then throw in the storyline and being able to share all of this with you guys and what the experience is like, and to just get a feel for it all, it's a bit of a no-brainer to go down that path, really. It's a bit of a no-brainer to bring it here and just to, I don't know, enjoy these opportunities. Who knows if this would be possible again in the future. So I want to make the most of that and just have fun with it. Now, why this car is a quick series of answers, really. The first is because it's a very personal car. It's a car that I was involved with from the very start. Obviously, I had the SLS Black Series, but then we shot the launch piece for the GT Black Series that I had a little bit of an appearance in. It's a car that's super practical. The fact that we've got all of those bags in the back, the fact that you can take everything you need with you and use it on a road trip, yet it's also unbelievably high performing. You know, when we go to the track, and we will have a track day quite shortly, it's a quick car, like really quick. Well, hey, it broke a Nürburgring Nordschleife record, right? Really that level of fast. But it's also a Mercedes. And what I mean by that is there are dealers everywhere. The dealer network is very well established. It's pretty reliable. If things do go wrong, there is the network in place to get it back on the road very, very quickly. So all of those mean that, you know, a car like the Senna, for example, would make no sense. It has no luggage space. It's significantly harder if anything goes wrong to get it sorted with the dealers everywhere. It's more likely to go wrong in the first place. So why would you? Why would you try with something like that? As such, here we are with the GT Black Series. Even though it's a very, very expensive adventure, I hope that we're going to be having many days that aren't like this, because this is not the way that we like it to be. This is not exactly the best at all. Anyway, last couple of minutes from here to our hotel, and then we work out how we go from there. I'm driving through a ludicrous puddle. You can't see that because I'm going so slowly, but there's a lifted Jeep or something in front of us, which is definitely the right car. But the interesting thing about this place is it feels so European. Everything's a bit smaller streets, just a little bit more European style to it. I'm sorry, I'm just concentrating on where we are, but yeah, we'll find the hotel shortly. Well, we're here. The weather, not so sure about unloading bags now, but that's a problem we will work out off camera. For today, a bit of an overview of what this tour entails. We have 5,873 miles, which means we have driven about 300 miles already in the US. Still significantly less than even 10% of what we're going to do this month alone. Today though, from New York City, starting off actually with a bit of a photo shoot before with Brian, BT Photos, some amazing shots, before driving here to Rhode Island. 4 states, first time I think I've ever been to Rhode Island, which is kind of cool as well. And obviously here with this car, the start of what's going to be a mega adventure ahead. And that's it for this time though. A huge thanks to Surfshark. Do check out the link down below for a little bit more information about all of the VPN side of things. As I said, something I use especially when booking trips like this. That's it for this time though. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I'll see you again very soon. Cheers.